Welcome to Drift Into Stories, Monday Love Hurts series. I'm your host, S. Buckle up. Today's story is about to begin. My name is Neil Archer. I'm 40 years old. I work as a senior project manager at a commercial real estate development firm in Charlotte called Crestwood Partners. We build mixed-use properties, retail and residential combined, the kind of development you see going up in every mid-sized American city right now. Cranes and construction fencing and renderings of happy people walking dogs past ground floor coffee shops. I've been there for 10 years, long enough to know the work inside and out. I know which contractors deliver and which ones need babysitting. I know how to read a construction draw. I know how to sit in a meeting with ownership and translate problems into language that doesn't make anyone panic. It's a good job, demanding but pays well. The politics are what you would expect. People just below director level sharpening knives for each other constantly. Because director is where the real money starts, and there are only so many seats. I stayed out of it, mostly. Kept my head down, delivered my projects on time, got my reviews, and went home. Home was a 2-bedroom condo I had bought after my divorce from Lisa was finalized 6 years earlier. We didn't have kids. We had 2 cats, both of whom went with her, and a divorce that was more sad than angry. By the time it was over, we both knew we had spent too many years trying to be the right one for each other when we simply weren't. Lisa remarried last year. I didn't. I went to work, I came home. I ordered food, watched shows on my laptop I barely paid attention to, went to bed, and got up the next morning to do it all over again. That was my life. Stable, boring, but no drama. Sasha Reeves worked in finance. She was Crestwood's controller, meaning she owned every number in the company, oversaw accounts payable, managed financial reporting for all active projects, and sat in the CFO's direct line. Her department and mine touched the same projects from different angles, but rarely needed to work together directly. I knew her name. I had seen her in the elevator, but that was about as far as it went. We had our real conversation at a Q3 project status summit, a twice-yearly all-hands meeting where department heads present project updates to the ownership group. I was presenting construction timelines on the Riverfront Commons project. She was presenting the financial dashboard for the same project. We had a 30-minute prep meeting in the conference room the morning of. She walked in with 2 coffees and set one in front of me before I could say anything. No cream, no sugar. I remember noticing that because it was exactly how I took it. Later, I asked her how. "You always get it from the machine on 4, she said. "You never add anything." I hadn't realized anyone had noticed. We talked for 10 minutes about the presentation and then about everything else for the next hour and missed the pre-summit breakfast entirely. She was sharp in a way that was different from the performative sharpness you see in big companies. Not trying to impress, just thinking clearly and saying what she thought. Her opinions about the Riverfront Commons were blunt and dead on. They were also the same thoughts I had been keeping to myself for months. We went for drinks after the summit, just the two of us. Neither of us planned it. It just happened the way things happen when two people are paying close attention to each other and don't want the day to end. For the next 8 months, my life changed in small, steady ways. Nothing dramatic at first, just Sasha becoming part of my days until I couldn't remember what it had felt like without her. She was the most present person I'd ever been around. She listened the way very few adults listen, all the way to the end of what you're saying, not loading her response while you're still talking. She cooked well and ate enthusiastically and had opinions about both. She ran every weekend morning and slowly pulled me into the habit with her. I hadn't run since my 20s, but after a while, it became something I enjoyed. She gave me good advice about work, not generic advice, specific, tactical, accurate. She understood the politics of a Crestwood better than I did because she saw the money, and the money tells you everything about where power actually lives in a company. When I was being pushed off a project by a director who wanted to install his own guy, Sasha showed me how to document everything in a way that made the politics impossible for ownership to ignore. I did it. It worked. By month 7, I was thinking about a ring. Not vaguely, seriously. I had a budget in mind, a jeweler picked out on Province Road, and a proposal scenario I had replayed so many times it was starting to feel real. That was also the month I found the Summit Advisory invoices. I didn't go looking for anything suspicious. That's important. I was looking for a filed contract from a civil engineering firm called Trident, which I needed for a dispute with a subcontractor on the Alderman Street project. Trident's contract should have been in the project folder on the shared drive, filed under vendor agreements. I was in the wrong subfolder. I had clicked into the accounts payable archive instead of vendor agreements. They sit next to each other in the directory, and I was going fast. I saw a folder called Summit Advisory Services LLC with 17 documents in it. I didn't recognize the name. I know every major vendor we use on the construction side. GCs, subs, engineers, surveyors, environmental consultants. Summit Advisory Services wasn't one of them. The name was generic in the way that shell company names are generic. I should have clicked away. I opened it instead. 17 invoices. The earliest dated 18 months ago. The most recent dated 6 weeks before that evening. Amounts ranging from $34,000 to $112,000. Services listed as Strategic Project Consulting. No contract on file, no deliverable documentation, no project-specific detail. Just that phrase, repeated across 17 invoices, on every single one. Total paid to Summit Advisory Services LLC across 18 months, $847,000. For a few seconds, I just stared at the total. Then I pulled up the approval records. Every invoice had been approved by the same person. Sasha Reeves, Controller. I closed the folder. I found the Trident contract in the right subfolder where it had been the whole time. I sent the email I needed to send. I went home. I didn't sleep that night. The next 2 days, I did what any person with a decade in project management does when something doesn't add up. I pulled the thread carefully and quietly. I looked up Summit Advisory Services LLC in the North Carolina Secretary of State's Business Registry. The company had been registered 22 months ago. The registered agent was a name I didn't recognize. The listed address was a UPS store on South Boulevard. I pulled Crestwood's vendor onboarding records, which I had access to through my project file permissions, and looked at how Summit had been set up in the system. The banking information on file was a routing number I couldn't directly trace, but the account had been added by a user credential I recognized. I remember staring at it, hoping I was wrong. I wasn't. It belonged to Sasha. At first, I didn't think like a project manager. I didn't think like someone who knew how fraud looked when it showed up on paper. I thought like a man who had almost bought a ring. I thought about the jeweler I picked out, the morning runs, the dinners, the 30-minute prep meeting that somehow turned into the beginning of everything. I thought about Sasha sitting across from me, telling me things no one else noticed. Sasha bringing me coffee without asking how I took it. Sasha making my life feel, for the first time in years, like it was becoming something more than routine. Then, I had to sit with the part I didn't want to understand. The woman I loved had been living a whole second life inside the same company where I worked beside her every day. After that, the facts came back in. When a controller at a real estate development firm gets caught running an $847,000 ghost vendor scheme, the consequences are not small. Federal wire fraud charges, bank fraud. Auditors would eventually find it. They always do. The pattern is too familiar, and forensic accounting is very good at this specific kind of crime. Sasha was smart enough to keep it going for 22 months. She wasn't smart enough to make it disappear. And if she had an exit plan, I couldn't see it, which meant either she didn't have one or she had waited too long to use it. I was not going to propose to a woman who was building a federal case against herself. I told her on a Saturday, her apartment, not mine. I wanted to be somewhere I could leave after the conversation. I laid it out plainly. The invoices, Summit Advisory, the routing number. I just described what I had found and what it meant. Her face turned pale. She was quiet for a long time. She was sitting across from me at her kitchen table, and she was very still in the way that people are still when they're running fast calculations behind their eyes. "How did you get into those files?" she said finally. "Wrong folder on the shared drive. I wasn't looking for it." She nodded slowly. One nod, like she was accepting a piece of information. "What are you going to do?" she said. "I'm going to break up with you," I said. "That's what I'm doing right now, and I'm asking you, not telling you, asking you to stop. Pay it back somehow. Come clean to the CFO. Whatever you can figure out. But stop. And if I don't?" Well, that's your decision. I'm not going to the company. I'm not going to the SCE. I'm not going anywhere. This is between you and your conscience. She looked at me for a long moment. I watched her face change, but not in the way I expected. There was no confession there, no immediate collapse, no flash of shame, just calculation. Like she was taking the new information, measuring the damage, and deciding which version of herself to become next. Okay, she said. One word, just okay. I drove home. I sat in my condo and I felt something that I didn't have a clean name for. Not relief, not grief. Something between both of those that was mostly just tired. I told myself it was over. I told myself she was smart enough to know that I was her best possible outcome. Someone who had found it and walked away without talking. I was wrong about that. That's the thing I need you to understand. I was completely wrong about that. The first thing happened 3 weeks later. I was driving home from a site visit on a Wednesday evening, heading south on I-77 in ordinary traffic, when I came off the ramp and pressed the brake pedal. It didn't catch the way it should have. Not complete failure, worse almost. A soft, spongy delay, the kind of response that gives you just enough control to stay alive if you don't panic. I pumped the brakes, used the emergency brake, got the car onto the shoulder. The shop towed it in and called me the next morning. Brake line issue, they said. Probably corrosion, maybe road debris, something they had seen before. They told me I was lucky I noticed it when I did. I filed it under bad luck and moved on. The second thing happened the following month. It was a Tuesday night, dinner alone, Thai food from the place near my condo, the same place I had ordered from 20 times before. Same order, same routine. 40 minutes after I got home, I was on the bathroom floor. Then I was only partly conscious. Then I was in an ER, listening to the doctor explain that there was an elevated level of something in my bloodstream, something my body had been trying very hard to expel. She used the word ingestion. She asked what I had eaten. She said it could have been contamination from the restaurant. It could have been a lot of things. These things happened, she told me. And maybe they did. But lying there, under the fluorescent lights, I thought about Sasha's hands in her kitchen. Every dinner she had ever made me. Every takeout order she somehow remembered. Every small detail she had collected about what I liked, what I drank, what I ate, what I trusted. I pushed the thought away. I pushed it away because the alternative, that she had done this on purpose, was too large and too ugly for my mind to process. The third thing happened at the office. Parking structure, level 3, the same stairwell I used every morning because I parked in the same spot every day. It was 8:15, quiet, no voices, no footsteps except mine. Then there was pressure on my back, 2 hands, hard. I went forward. My body hit the railing before my mind fully understood what had happened. My hand caught metal. My shoulder slammed into the wall. For one suspended second, the flight of stairs opened beneath me like a drop I'd almost belonged to. Luckily, I didn't fall. I turned around. The stairwell was empty. Above me, a door closed. I stood there with both hands on the railing, breathing like I had just run miles. And suddenly, all three things lined up in my mind. The soft brake pedal on I-77. The ER doctor saying ingestion. The hands on my back at the top of the stairs. And I understood. Not all at once, exactly. More like something I had been refusing to see finally become too heavy to keep holding away. Sasha had decided I was the problem, and she had started solving for me. I didn't go to the police. I want to explain that because it's the part people find hardest to understand. I had no evidence. I had a brake line a mechanic called corrosion, a food poisoning incident a doctor called contamination, a stairwell push with no witnesses and no camera coverage. What I had was a story about a woman embezzling money from a company which I had found accidentally with no documentation, and which I had explicitly told her I wasn't reporting. Walking into a police station with that story and no evidence made me look like one of two things, either paranoid or complicit. I'm not going to risk the second one, not without something to show. I didn't have anything to show. That was the trap she had built without me realizing she was building it. I gave my notice that Friday, cited a personal situation, thanked my director, offered 2 weeks. He accepted with the mild surprise of someone who had seen people leave before and wasn't going to make it difficult. I cleared my desk over the weekend. I listed my condo the following Monday, below market asking. I needed it to move fast, and it did. 20 days later, I had a check and a moving truck and no forwarding address on file with anyone I wasn't completely certain about. I drove north, then west. I won't say exactly where I ended up, because for now, being hard to find is the only thing that still makes me feel safe. Here is where I am now. I'm in a city I had never been to before I moved here. I had a job, contract work, under a structure that keeps my name at the edge of the paper trail rather than the center of it. I pay for things in cash when I can. I use a VPN. I closed all my social media accounts. I have a phone number that doesn't connect to my name. I have not contacted anyone from Charlotte except my sister. She knows I'm alive. She knows I'm okay. And she knows not to tell anyone where I am, or even that she has heard from me. Not our friends, not our parents, no one. Asking that of her broke something between us. I could hear it happen in her voice, and I still don't know how to repair it. I think about going to law enforcement. I think about it seriously. The problem is the same problem it was when I left. I have no evidence. I have no evidence when I found the invoices. I didn't screenshot anything. I didn't forward anything to myself. I didn't document a single number before I closed that folder and went back to looking for the Trident contract. I was too stunned. And then I was too busy trying to decide what to do. And by the time I understood the full shape of what I was looking at, I no longer had access to the system. Three weeks ago, I got a notification that someone had attempted to log into an old email account I hadn't used in over a year. The attempt failed. The account had a two-factor authentication tied to a phone number I no longer used. But someone had tried. Someone had the email address, and I was looking for what was connected to it. Last Tuesday, I was walking back from the market, 4 blocks from where I live, and a car slowed on the street beside me. Dark sedan, rental plates. It moved on before I could see the driver. Maybe nothing. Maybe traffic. Maybe a lost person looking for an address. I told myself maybe. I'm still telling myself maybe. It's the best I've got right now. I've spent a lot of time thinking about what I would have done differently. You always do that after something like this. You go back through every conversation, every choice, every moment where the story might have turned another way. And honestly, my answer isn't what people expect. I don't wish I had never met Sasha. I know how that sounds. I know what she did. I know what she tried to do to me. But for 8 months, my life had a color again. I woke up with someone to text. I ran on weekend mornings. I ate dinner across from a person who listened when I spoke. For the first time in years, I felt seen by someone, and I can't pretend that meant nothing just because of what came after. What I wish is simpler than that. I wish I had taken screenshots. 17 invoices. 30 seconds. That was all it would have taken. 30 seconds in the wrong folder on a shared drive, and I would have had something real to bring to someone. Something I could prove. Instead, I closed the folder and walked away. Because that was who I was. Careful, by the book, heads down. The kind of man who followed the right channels, filed things correctly, and tried not to create problems unless he absolutely had to. Sasha knew that. She knew exactly what kind of man I was before I understood what kind of woman she was. I want to tell you, love is worth the risk. I want to tell you to open the door, let someone in, and trust that the good parts matter. But please know who is standing in the room with you, because sometimes the most dangerous person in your life isn't the stranger in the dark. Sometimes it's the person who knows your schedule, your habits, your weak spots,